You ever notice how companies sometimes ask you to pay more money for what feels like less? Like they'll slap a fresh coat of paint on something, maybe add a cup holder, and suddenly it's 5 grand more expensive? Well, that's exactly what's happening with Tesla right now, and honestly, it's got me scratching my head. So, Tesla just dropped their latest update for the Model S and Model X. You know, they're fancy flagship cars that cost more than most people's houses, and they're asking for an extra $5,000 for what I can only describe as some pretty underwhelming changes. And I'm sitting here thinking, is this really worth it? Are we getting played here, or is there something I'm missing? Now, if you're finding this kind of stuff as fascinating as I am, the weird world of car pricing and corporate decision making, definitely hit that subscribe button because we dive deep into this kind of analysis all the time. Trust me, there's always some company out there doing something that makes you go, wait, what? But back to Tesla. Let me paint you a picture here. You're looking at a car that now starts at almost $85,000 for the Model S and nearly $90,000 for the Model X. That's not pocket change, right? That's a really nice house in some parts of the country. And Tesla just decided, hey, you know what? Let's make it $5,000 more expensive. Just like that. Now, what are you getting for that extra 5 grand? Well, this is where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean kind of disappointing. The biggest thing they're bragging about is range. The Model S can now go 410 miles on a single charge, which, honestly, that's pretty impressive. That's like driving from New York to Boston and back without stopping to charge. But here's the thing. How often are you really doing that? Like, really? The Model X got a bit more love in the range department, going from 329 miles to 352 miles. That's a 23-mile bump, which is about 7% better. Not terrible, but again, we're talking about a $5,000 price increase here. That works out to about $217 per extra mile of range. Think about that for a second. $217 per mile. But wait, there's more. They've added these fancy adaptive headlights that can supposedly dim parts of the beam so you don't blind oncoming drivers. That's actually pretty cool technology, I'll give them that.
It's like having smart headlights that can think for themselves. They also threw in a front bumper camera, which is supposed to help with all their self-driving stuff, and that actually smart summon feature. You know, the one where your car can supposedly come pick you up in a parking lot like some kind of robot butler. Inside the car, they've added this dynamic ambient lighting system. Basically, the lights inside the car now do little animations when you get in. It's like your car is trying to be a nightclub or something. And they've improved the noise cancellation, which means it should be quieter inside when you're cruising down the highway. Now, here's where things get really interesting, and not in a good way. The car experts, the people who drive these things for a living and know what they're talking about, they're not impressed. At all. Car and Driver basically said, yeah, it's still fast and has good range, but everyone else has caught up. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement when you're asking people to pay more money. And get this, some of the changes are actually worse than before. Remember the Model S Plaid? That was the one that could supposedly hit 200 miles per hour, which is absolutely insane and completely unnecessary, but also kind of awesome in that because we can sort of way. Well, now it tops out at 149 miles per hour. They literally made it slower and charged more money for it. That's like buying a new phone that has worse battery life than your old one, but costs more. It just doesn't make sense. The people on social media are not having it either. You go on Twitter or Reddit and it's just person after person saying, "Are you kidding me with this?" And honestly, I get it. If you're a Tesla fan who's been waiting for a big update and this is what you get, you'd probably feel pretty let down too. What really gets me is how this stacks up against the competition. BMW has the iX, which starts at around $87,000, but comes with way more luxury features. The interior is nicer, the materials are better. It just feels more premium. Audi's got the Q6 e-tron starting at $64,000 with competitive range. And if you really want to get crazy, Ford's Mustang Mach-E gives you 320 miles of range starting at $36,000. $36,000. That's less than half the price of a Model S.
So what's Tesla thinking here? Well, I think they're basically banking on their most loyal customers, the people who are so deep into the Tesla ecosystem that they'll pay whatever it takes to stay in the family. It's like Apple raising the price of iPhones because they know people will buy them anyway. Tesla's looking at their sales numbers and thinking, you know what, the Model S and Model X are already niche products. We only sold about 13,000 of them last quarter, compared to over 300,000 Model 3s and Model Ys. so why not squeeze a little more profit out of the people who are going to buy them regardless? But here's the problem with that strategy. It makes your brand look greedy. And in a world where everyone's watching every move you make, especially when you're Elon Musk and Tesla, that's not a great look. It sends a message that says, we're not really innovating anymore, we're just trying to make more money off the same stuff. And speaking of innovation, that's probably what bugs me most about this whole thing. Tesla used to be the company that would blow your mind with new technology. They were the ones pushing boundaries, making everyone else scramble to catch up. But this update? It feels like they're just checking boxes. Like someone in a meeting said, okay, we need to update these cars. What's the minimum we can do to justify a price increase? The really frustrating part is that Tesla has all this cool new technology in their other cars that they could have put in the Model S and Model X. The Cybertruck has this crazy steer-by-wire system where the steering wheel isn't even mechanically connected to the wheels. It's all electronic. They've got this new 48-volt electrical system that's supposed to be way more efficient, but none of that made it into these flagship cars that cost twice as much. It's like if Mercedes came out with a new S-Class that had the same technology as a C-Class but cost $50,000 more. You'd think they'd lost their minds, right? That's kind of what Tesla's doing here. Now, let me be fair for a second. There are some people who genuinely love these updates. The ride quality is apparently better, the cars are quieter, and that extra range is real. If you're someone who does a lot of long-distance driving and you want the absolute longest range possible, that 410-mile Model S is pretty tempting. And if you're already deep in the Tesla ecosystem with the supercharger network and all their software, staying with Tesla makes some sense.
But for most people, I just don't see it. You're paying a premium for what feels like a lateral move at best, and in some ways, like that reduced top speed on the Plaid, it's actually a step backward. The market seems to agree with me on this one. Tesla's stock hasn't exactly celebrated this announcement, and the general reaction from car enthusiasts has been pretty lukewarm. Even some of the biggest Tesla fans are saying things like, "This is it? This is what we waited for?" Here's what I think is really going on. Tesla is in this weird position where they're trying to maintain their premium brand image while also dealing with increased competition and probably some internal pressure to boost profits. The Model S and Model X have always been low-volume, high-margin products. They don't sell a lot of them, but they make good money on each one. So when you're looking at ways to increase revenue without having to completely redesign the cars, raising prices is the easiest path. But it's also the laziest path. And I think that's what's really bothering people. Tesla built their reputation on being innovative, on pushing the envelope, on making people excited about electric cars. This update doesn't do any of that. It's just incremental improvements with a big price tag attached. If I were advising someone who is thinking about buying one of these cars, I'd probably tell them to wait. Wait and see what else comes out in the next year or two. The electric car market is moving so fast right now that there's always something new and exciting around the corner. BMW, Mercedes, Audi, even Genesis. They're all coming out with impressive electric vehicles that might give you more bang for your buck. Or if you're really set on a Tesla, maybe consider the Model 3 or Model Y. They're newer platforms with more recent technology, they cost way less, and honestly, for most people, they'll do everything you need them to do. The Model S and Model X are beautiful cars, don't get me wrong, but they're starting to feel like expensive solutions to problems most people don't have. So, is Tesla's latest update worth the $5,000 price hike? For most people, I'd say no. It feels like paying more for less, and in a competitive market, that's usually not a winning strategy. But hey, if you've got money to burn and you absolutely must have the longest-range electric sedan on the market, then maybe it makes sense for you. Just know that you're probably paying a premium for the privilege of being a Tesla owner more than you're paying for cutting-edge technology.